Facebook. Okay, here we go. Facebook Live recording.
This podcast is brought to you by lineupmedia.fm. This is Baseball Outside the Box with Peter Caliendo. Innovative thoughts from baseball's best coaching minds from around the world. Brought to you by lineupmedia.fm. Now your host, former USA Baseball National Team Coach, Peter Caliendo.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I am your host, Pete Caliendo, and you are live on Facebook, of course, with Baseball Outside the Box. So join us, Facebook, if you see us, and we're also on Zoom. The audio will be on baseballoutsidethebox.com, so check it out there in case you missed the show. Please do us one favor, subscribe to YouTube, Peter Caliendo. That's all we ask. We got 80-plus shows, probably close to 90 now. We got 4 a week. Love to have you be a subscriber so that way we can get the show out to everybody. The more you subscribe, then you'll also get an update. So we are thrilled that you're with us today, and today is the new baseball season. Baseball is back. That is the name of the game. And we continue our series of long-term development when it comes to baseball. We're going to talk baseball development with 2 of the best in the U.S. and around the world, and I'll tell you why. Because these guys, I don't know, I think I added it up. I'll let them tell me later, but it might be over 90 years of high school baseball experience. They are tremendous. Both USA Baseball national team coaches. I'm going to introduce them in a minute. First of all, let me start off with Ronnie Davini. And Ronnie, national team coach. I got to say, 40-plus years of coaching. And interesting, drafted, but he played at Arizona State, and he was in '67 the College World Series most outstanding player. He probably didn't think I knew that, but I went into the archives to check all that out. Former catcher. I mean, think about playing there. Was drafted 4 times. Corona del Sol High School and a BCA Hall of Fame member. Ronnie, how you doing, buddy?
Doing fine, Pete.
Hopefully I didn't screw up any of that intro.
It's no big deal.
No, went okay?
That's fine. It's 49 years coaching.
49. I was trying to add it up, and I think I flunked math in high school.
Right out of coach, probably.
I'll blame it on my teacher. And listen, also, by the way, I didn't mention, but both of these guys, first of all, Ronnie, the past executive director of National High School Baseball Coaches Association, and also now Tim Saunders, the current executive director. So we're going to get into what the association's all about, and also want to introduce. Now, Tim, I added up 33 years. I'm sure I messed that up too. But you were at Dublin High School, USA Baseball Coach, USA Olympic Committee Development Coach of the Year, current executive director, and also, I believe, also a BCA Hall of Fame member.
That's correct.
All right, I got it right. So let me welcome Tim Saunders. How you doing, buddy?
Good, great. I just finished my 40th year of coaching.
Man, so I got 40 and 49. That's 89. What I got said 90. I was pretty close.
You're close.
All right, so I'm glad we got that all straight. And folks, we're excited to have these guys on. I got to tell you, I've been to the High School Association several times at a convention. But let's do this. Let's start off with Ronnie. You were the former executive director. Let's just start off. Tell us a little history about what now in the past used to be called the BCA, now the NHSBCA, National High School Baseball Coaches Association. So go through the history a little bit, with also about our great friend Jerry Miles, who I got to know also. What a superb individual.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. In 1991, Jerry Miles decided to break off from the association and start a new association that would include high school coaches, so that they would have a voice, have a platform, and they would have a place to get education through high school coaching. Jerry was there. Jerry and his wife, Elaine, both are there from 1991 to 2004. In 2003, 2004, Elaine got sick, and they started saying, well, it's time for Jerry to retire. And he asked me if I would take over it. But in December, actually the 1st of January of 2005, Elaine passed away. And I said, okay, I'll take it, but I got to wait till I finish my high school season, and I'll take it over in June. So in June 2005, I became the national director of the BCA, or the National High School Baseball Coaches Association. After Elaine died, their son died shortly after Greg. It was 2 months later with cancer.
Wow.
I ran it from 2005 to 2013. I thought it was time for me to let new blood come in. That's the young man that's in here with us tonight. It was time for people to get new, excited, probably get tired of me, and it was time for me to move on. And in 2013, right, Tim? You took over.
About 2018.
18. Well,
Hey, I don't feel so bad now about my math and everything, because you guys are in the same boat I am.
well, I'm older. So I took it over. I mean,
I got it wrong by 1 year. You guys, I think, were off like 4 or 5 years.
Well, I don't have enough totals.
Well, I just know one thing. I'm in my 3rd year. So, yeah, that adds up to about 18.
Yes. But
I love it.
the main purpose of the organization was to make sure that we had a platform for high school coaches, and that we made sure that education took place and that they get credit around the country for what they're doing. You want to continue, Timmy?
And on that, Tim, let's do this. I love that, Ronnie, because I got to say, I've been around high school coaches all my life, work with them, incredible learners, incredible teachers, role models. It almost killed me when and we're going to get into it later, but it almost killed me when I heard players saying, oh, I'm going to skip high school baseball. I'm going to go do travel ball or something, thinking, the experience of a lifetime, high school baseball. But we'll get into that because I think that's important. Tim, continue. Go ahead. Tell us what the association, like I said, what it's about also, because I'm sure it's added a lot more and where it's heading.
We've tried to add, but we didn't want to take away from tradition and experiences that Ron had started and Jerry had started. You know what? We base ourselves based like Ron, like the platform was. It's a high school association run by high school coaches. And the thing about it, it's not a mom and pop organization, but it's an organization where all of our committees are high school coaches. They have to be members to be a committee member, and they're a part of promoting baseball, high school baseball. And I think that's probably the best thing we do besides the education. We're getting ready to put out our All-American teams. We honor National Fields of the Year, Regional Fields of the Year, Assistant Coaches of the Year, Head Coaches of the Year. So we tried to say, you know what, let's let people know that there's something nationally that they can get involved with, and not for the award, because you don't get in it for an award. But you know what, if you're in it for very long and it's a fraternity of coaches from coast to coast that makes it such a great organization. I know I've been a member of our high school association here for 40 years, and I know almost every coach in the state of Ohio, but it's awesome to know hundreds of coaches coast to coast. And a lot of people miss out on that. And I think that's what we're all about, is just making a fraternity of coaches that, hell, we have a reunion once a year with the ABCA, with the BCA, National High School Baseball. And then, you know what, when we travel, we always took our team someplace where I knew somebody locally that I met through the National High School Baseball coaches that said, hey, if you get rained out a couple of days, and that's what happens in the summertime, hey, come to my gym, come to my facility, I will let you guys work out, and you're not stuck in one place. So there's so many benefits to it. So we're just trying to keep it going, but we got a new website. We've updated that. A lot of stuff we've done is just to update, just to get with the modern times. And that's kind of where we're at.
Tim, I saw the website. If I meant to tell you, outstanding. I really loved it. And, the thing is about the BCA, and I'm going to call it the BCA, but it's the NHSBCA. I'm used to BCA.
Oh, yeah.
Members aren't only high school. We got people from all over the U.S. and the world, youth baseball internationally.
We do. We encourage it. You know, it's basically for any passionate baseball person. I mean, you don't have to be a varsity baseball coach to join, but we have some college coaches that join. We also have some outsiders that join. We have people that are speakers for us that aren't necessarily members of our association, but that's what we try to honor. We try to get a lot of high school coaches at the clinics, just like Ron did in past years, just so it's apples to apples. You know, many times we've been to the clinics, and let's use the ABCA because it's the monster of all clinics. And you're talking to Tim Corbin, who I know very well and does a great job, but he shows his facility, and he's got 7 batting cages, and he's got people lined up, and he's got an indoor facility where we're hitting line drives and ground balls, pop-ups inside. And a high school coach for a lot of time would come out and say, you know what, I can't listen to that guy because I can't use any of it. So we try to get a situation where, hey, we're high school coaches. We know what you're going through. And the education that we feel is better because of what I can take from the high school speakers and take them home with me and actually use them, whether I'm at a small school, medium school, or a large school.
And Ron, at any time, I asked the question, but the question's to both of you if you'd like to answer it.
Well, a lot of the stuff and the speakers that we have at the BCA, the NHSBCA, are people that are just right down ground level. They will teach you what they do. I mean, I think Timmy hit it right on the nose when he says, we don't have some of the things like some of the college coaches have. We don't have a choice of who our infielders are, or who our outfielders are, where our catchers and our pitchers are. Whatever walks through that door is what we have for 4 years, and you have to develop it. So we try to make that to the point that our speakers speak on the level of how do you make them better? How do you break it down fundamentally? How can you teach? And that's what it's all about. Teach a kid the fundamentals, the ideal behind the game itself and the concept. We don't have a machine to hit ground balls. When I left one of the schools I was at and went to a academy that only had 120 boys, I forgot, because I had coached at some of the better high schools in the country, what it was like to have kids who'd never played baseball in their life. And it was one of the finest experiences I ever had, because it made me go back to what an apple is, how to peel that apple if you don't like the cover, and how to digest what you're chewing when you bite that apple, and teach a kid how to eat that apple. Because, Tim, your kids, when they come, they all have bat bags. They have bats, maybe 3 or 4, shoes, gloves, and Pete, you have the same thing when you go across the world and you see some of the equipment they have. The school I was at, they come with a little bag that have their Thomas or their wingtip shoes on, because that's what they had to wear in school, and their khaki pants and their shirts. They didn't know they had to have a pair of pants and a practice jersey to practice in, and they were going to sweat. So in that organization that we try to teach coaches, think about what you're doing and help kids the best you can.
And speaking about teaching, there's no doubt about it. I mean, again, I've been involved with high school coaches. I think there's some of obviously the best teachers, the best educators, also the best innovators, whether they're indoors or outdoors. They're really good at what they do. And on top of it, they're certified, because most of them are actually teachers. And that's what I really like about that, because I think at the younger levels, we don't have a lot of certified people. And that's something we're going to get into also. But I do want to address you guys have education online too, because I've noticed articles and other things that you have online that coaches can benefit from.
Well, we promote that. We used to promote it through written articles, and we'd mail out letters. Now we're going strictly by email. So we're asking coaches to send in drills. We're asking coaches to send in information that we can post. And anymore with YouTube and all that, you can type in anything and you can get a whole lesson plan. You can get a yearly practice situation if you wanted to actually get that. So it's out there. So there's no reason today that a coach goes in blind and doesn't have an idea what to do, unless they've never played the game themselves. But there's so much information out there, and we just want to be a part of that as well, and let our guys and honor some guys who have done well, successful coaches that have good drills. Let's put them up. Let's no, don't hide them. Let's let people watch them.
And just for our folks out there, the convention obviously on hold for now for the pandemic.
Well, we will make a decision in September. I've been in contact where our clinic this year is going to be in Scottsdale, Arizona, December 5th to the 8th. It's always the first weekend in December, depending on when Thanksgiving falls. But usually the first weekend in December, which is the best time for us because it's a slow week between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So we try to keep our rates down to close to $100 a night for a room. So we're at the Scottsdale Embassy Suites, and I talked to them this week, and they understand. And if we have to cancel, we cancel. But you know what? We're starting to see cancellations, and we're starting to see state associations. The good thing for us is that we're not locked into a complete deadline where if we don't cancel by a certain date, we're going to lose all of our funds and have to pay penalty fees. So we're in a good situation this year. But if we have to cancel, we're going to go right back there again next year. So it's already set that we're going to use that. And what we try to do is we try to go out west, in the middle, and towards the east. So we try to go 3 different spots. For years, Ron did it, and he was flying all over the country, finding new spots. I'm a fan of saying, if we like a spot, we stay. If it's a good draw, we stay. So we're trying to find 3 hotels in 3 different areas that we can make it just every third year we're coming back to a certain location.
Yeah, and on top of it, you've also, you continued education for high school coaches because you've had speakers on Zoom. Talk about that, how successful that's been, because I think that was important during the pandemic, especially.
Well, I think it was important for everybody, but Ron and I knew nothing about Zoom until this thing hit. And now I've been on about 5 Zoom calls. I've listened to about 25 over the summer. That, it's a good education tool, and it's probably so good that people are going to start working from home, and they're going to start canceling their office buildings because it's like, we don't need to do this anymore. So I hope not, for the economy's sake, but the education part has been good, and listen to the speakers that we've gotten, the high school coaches that we've gotten for our Zoom calls is, I've gained a lot. It's a clinic within the hour that you can learn things from all kinds of coaches.
Well, the best part too, Tim, is when you start talking to a coach from up northeast and a coach from the northwest, we're all the same. We all have the same problems.
Yeah.
Now, what I mean, same problems might be with the players, but weather-wise, we can't handle that. But very typical. And sometimes they'll come to you and say, what would you do in this situation? And you say, well, this is how I approach it. And they say, well, this is what we have to do. And I go, you know what? That's pretty good. I'm a big school guy out here in the West. I know it all. But you know what? You guys back there, you have the hardships. Like Bob Colburn is a great one. He's out of Delaware. And Bobby had weather. They can't start baseball till March. And then they can't have contact with their kids until the first day of practice. And then the weather is so dang gum cold. I mean, I'm not used to you, Tim, or Pete, 32 degrees is a hot day. Not for me. Our kids would say, no way, coach, I'm not going out there. Now, we do it 115, 110. You guys don't like that, but it's pretty nice. But it's so nice to be able to meet other coaches, share ideas, find out we all have the same problems, and then in the clinics themselves, you learn more baseball, not just on the stage, but in the hallways and in the hotel rooms and in the Coca-Cola bars, okay?
And that's where unfortunately, if things do not start going in a better direction, the convention doesn't happen. That's the things you lose out in, because, we could be on Zoom all day. I think that's pretty good, but you lose out on what Ron's talking about. Any possibility, Tim, and I just want to throw this out there, eventually you're going to have to make a decision. It's a go or not. If it's not a go, I know you want to think positive, but if it's not a go, it's a possible Zoom conference for the weekend where you have different speakers at different times.
I think we'll talk about that, but what I'll do is we have an executive board, and we got to throw some ideas out there and then see who's going to run that, because I'm not a Zoom guy. And I'm sure Ron's not a Zoom guy setting it up. Oh, we might have to have you run it. So, but yeah, that's an idea. That's an idea that I think will come up. At least have 6 or 8 speakers. You know, maybe don't make it an all-day affair where we're going Thursday night, Friday, and Saturday, and Sunday morning. It won't be that type of thing. But I think there's some value to that, and so I think yes, that's a possibility.
Yeah, I'd be happy to help any way I can, guys. You know, I love you guys. You guys got a great association. And it's fairly easy to do. And you know, guys could jump in and out. They don't have to obviously follow the whole thing. You can tape it, and that later on, they can also go see it taped on your website, obviously.
Right.
What else? Before we get into some real great topics here, anything else about the association that you want people to know, whether it's in the U.S. or around the world?
Ron, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Tim. You do it fine.
I think our first thing is we're sending out about 5,000 emails now. We don't have 5,000 members. We have a little over 2,000 members. So, but we're sending out 5,000 emails consistently to people, coaches, baseball people that do get our emails. And I just talked to the person that runs Ty Whitaker runs out of Baltimore, Maryland. He runs the website and looks at all the back part of it. And he says that we get about 30% open up regularly every time we send an email out. So we're hitting some people. Of course, we're hitting our own base, the members themselves, because they get the individual newsletter, and then an ask by email, which is saved as stamps, saves me a lot of time. I know, Ron, you had spent hours doing that in the past, labeling all those things. So we're just kind of doing a different route, trying to make it quicker, more efficient, and cost effective, because it's really saving us money by just using emails versus mailings. But we're doing our best to expand, and we know we're going the right direction. We are getting people kind of forgot over the years that we existed, just because they got letters and mails, and then once they left the school, they didn't get the stuff anymore. They didn't know what happened to it, and we had no way to really follow them where they're going. So that's one way that we're just trying to build membership and get all of our 50 schools that play baseball in the United States to get them on board and share what we're doing, as well as we can share what their state is doing as well. So we're trying to work in partnership with each state, and say, because we have some states that are really active. We have a few states with 1 or 2 members or 0 members. It's like, guys, we'd love to have you on board, because we're going to honor your kids with All-Americans, and we're going to honor your coaches and fields. But we need a little support here from you, but we want to advertise what you have in your state.
Excellent. Folks, if you're on Facebook, you got any questions for Ron or Tim, just type it in the comment section. We got people on there. I know a lot of great comments, because guys know you obviously. We're going to jump in, so everybody knows we're going to jump into high school baseball, talk a little bit about that. The first thing, before we get into high school baseball, I want to know a little bit about, I know you guys, so I have an advantage. You're constant learners. But for our young coaches out there, what are some of the ways that you learn to get better every day? And especially in today's society where it's overwhelming. You got Twitter, Facebook, you got all kinds of information coming in from everywhere. And by the way, we will get all the association information, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, on our webpage, so you can go there and become a member. So what are some advice to young coaches? Ron, you want to start off?
Be open-minded. Be willing to, now it's YouTube, but be willing to go and get some of the books that have what you should be doing, how to set practices up. Books like Ron Polk's Bible, that is one of the biggest selling books in the country, if not the world, about the fundamentals of baseball. Don't be afraid to read a little bit about it. Don't be afraid to talk baseball with other coaches in your state. And don't be afraid to go to a convention, or even go to a showcase and see what they're doing in showcases, because you might not like what they're doing, but then again, you might be able to take something back to your place. Timmy?
I think you're exactly right. I think the biggest thing that you see that Ron said a couple of times there is afraid. Guys, come out of your shell, introduce yourself to a coach, whether it be in person, at a clinic, or in your neighborhood. But also, don't be afraid to email coaches. Hey, Coach at Woodlands, Texas, Ron Eastman. Hey, Ron, I know you've had some great teams. Can you tell me what you do with your outfielders, your infielders, your pitchers? They just had a catcher. It was a top round draft pick in the top 5 rounds. I think it was second or third. Say, what can you share a couple of drills that you do with your catchers? And the one thing about baseball coaches, it's they share. They, I think what really separates the great coaches from just coaches is not just their passion for the game, because many coaches have that, but their willingness to promote the game of baseball. And when you take a look at all the top leaders in the United States, they promote the game of baseball every day, not just with their players and their facility. It's throughout their communities. It's throughout the state. It's throughout the United States. So I think that's a big thing. And I talked to Coach, well, I'm a little bit embarrassed. I feel like I don't know that much, but you don't have to talk, just listen. And that's how you learn. And, read, investigate, look at some of this stuff that people are doing, find out the why they're doing it. I mean, let's just talk a little bit about launch angle. Launch angle for the pros is probably great. Launch angle for my baseball team wasn't so great. The kids that took lessons on launch angles, they had a lot of pop-ups to the shortstop, left fielder, and center fielder, which are routine outs. I tried to tell them, guys, I know you paid $1,000 to learn this swing, but if you don't get on base, we can't score runs. If we don't score runs, we can't win. So I got to tell them why. And I try to tell them things at the end of the season going into next year, guys, here's what I would stay away from. But, you got to make your own mind up on what you do. Mom and dad makes a lot of decisions for you. But that's just like coaching, because Ron said we have a lot of the same problems coast to coast, and that's one of them. Guys, there's like 15 hitting theories out there right now, and there's 15 pitching theories with weighted balls, non-weighted balls, long throwing, all the things that you can do. What's going to make my son the best? It depends on what I know, but I just know one thing, that one size doesn't fit all. And so you got to see if a person that's in a 11 years old probably doesn't need to be working on a launch angle swing yet. This is get on base and have fun. So that's part of the education that I'd say.
You know what? Well said. You would have thought this was scripted, because yesterday we had a show with Jeff Fry, former Major League player, who put something on Twitter about launch angle, kind of mocking it in some ways, and he got hammered. And he's out there, but he's getting a lot of followers, and I think you're bringing up some great stuff. And here's the difficulty. Nowadays, you're getting so much information. It's great, but you also have to decipher this information, because it could be mind-boggling. So I think you bring up a great point. The other area you mentioned was promoting the game. I know high school coaches are very good at this, and I think there's a lot of importance to this. I believe that if we don't promote the game correctly at the youth levels, at the young levels, at the in-house, at the travel programs, then you're not going to get the players that are developed properly for you to do the things you need to do in high school baseball. Ron, am I far away from that?
No, you're right on. I mean, I don't know how many places I've been. I'm talking about conventions. I try to go to as many conventions as I possibly can, and I've listened to speakers that are on the main stage, and I listen to what they're saying, and every level is different. The youth level, you've got to teach fundamentals. On the upper level, you can cheat, because the people you have better have the fundamentals, or they better have unbelievable God-given skills. In the position that I teach a lot of is catching. When a kid comes into our school as a 9th grader, and I try to get them when they're 7th graders or earlier, and work on fundamentals, what a stance is supposed to be like, how to shift, how to block properly, how to work your footwork. Well, listening to some of the coaches talk at a national convention saying, well, just catch on a knee, because you win more ball games if you get a low strike. But what about when you have men on base? Well, you still catch on one knee because you want that low pitch. But what if you can't block it on one knee? That's just part of the game. But wait a minute, how do you tell a young kid who's 9 years old, one knee, the ball gets by you, what the hell? It's just part of the game. No, Stop the dang gum ball. Stop it. So you have to teach the fundamentals and make sure that they do it correctly. And as they move up, they can decide where they want to go from there. We were talking about launch angles, Timmy, a second ago. One of the college coaches I know very well coaches in an area that is high altitude. And you know what's going to happen to a ball with high altitude? It is going to fly. Remember?
Yeah.
Colorado Springs,
Yeah.
Air Force Academy. Man, I tell you what, they teach launch angles. God, if you hit a launch angle, that ball just takes off in the place. But as soon as they come down here in the valley in Arizona, that's a pop-up. That's a short fly ball. And what they have to do is they have to reteach hitting line drives and putting the balls in the gaps.
Timmy?
You know, I after the College World Series 2 years ago, I think I counted 80. There were 80 at bats. I watched a couple different games, and I watched 40 some pop-ups, and I watched about 20 some strikeouts. And I said, I don't know if that's good. So I talked to one of my friends who's a scout for the Cincinnati Reds, one of the top guys, and I don't know if I have a lot of faith in this guy, but he said, Tim, we switched from the Cincinnati Reds, and I hope I'm correct. I hope no one's Cincinnati Reds says this is not right. But he says, you have to have, for us to draft you high, you have to have twice as many doubles as you do home runs. Because once you get in the big leagues, with these kids are hitting home runs in 18 to 35 home runs in college level, with a wooden bat, they're not going to go as far. And so unless you have 18 home runs and 36 doubles, then we're probably saying your swing is not going to be made for what we're looking for the major league level. So I thought that was interesting for me to hear that and then give it to our players. So if you're hitting pop-ups here, even if you're going out of the park barely on a 340 to 360 foot fence, that's a routine pop-up at best. That's a short pop-up in the big leagues. So just trying to say, talking about why, to me, that was another reason I could use for why this swing might not be good. And I'm not bad-mouthing. It's good for some people. But yeah, teaching the fundamentals of it and get them started early and repetition. Because you know what? We've gone to now with travel ball. We don't practice on our fields anymore. You're not allowed to. The games are 15 minutes apart. Gives your guy, and we have 250 games a year on our field. And that's because of the tournaments. And so we have a perfect game tournament, or we have a PBR tournament come in, 15 minutes between, gives us time to drag it, throw a little water down, they throw the first pitch. So they have no practice, they have no warm-up. All they do is jog and throw. That lasts about 5 minutes, and they're ready to play. A lot of these kids get 2 balls a day, in a normal game. And so are they getting better? The repetition part is key, with the understanding of why we're working on this, with the fundamentals that we're working on.
And that's why I'm glad we're talking about this, because even Ron had a real good point also, and that was, there's several levels of baseball. We're not just talking about major league, college, high school. There's youth league. There's also, don't forget, you might have travel ball, but then you got in-house baseball. That's a whole different story. In-house, where kids are just playing 15 games a year, maybe 4 practices before the season starts. It's a whole different way of teaching some of these kids. So I'm glad we're bringing this up. Now, an important question here also would be, you guys as high school coaches, I want to get an idea with the pandemic, what's happened. Has it hurt high school baseball? Why it's hurt, and what are some of the benefits possibly?
I think it hurt every sport, because they're not going out and doing their job and doing the thing they love most is playing that sport. If it's basketball, if it's football, if it's baseball, we're all shut down, and that's good because of the safety factor. But I think it's also somewhat good because it shuts a kid down a little bit where he's not been overworked. Every kid needs to have some time in the year, a shutdown phase. Like in baseball, you play all summer. You come back to school, hey, great, shut down. Now, when I say shut down, I mean shut down from playing, but go out and swing the bat. What do you mean? You can't swing a bat because I'm not in the game. Hell, get a tee out. Go to a batting range, swing some bats, do a lot of dry runs, ground balls, throw balls against the brick wall and catch them. Do that. And then when it's time to get back together, now let's start playing the game. It's hurt us a little bit. I feel sorry for all those seniors who lost their senior year.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad because I know here in Arizona, we were fortunate enough our varsity team got in 10 games. Our freshman teams and JV teams got in 3 games and it was shut down. Some people never got started. Teams in Florida might have maybe played 15 games, maybe 10, 15 games. So now we'll just have to sit back and stay mentally ready, stay physically ready, and hone in on your skills. And let's wait until it's time to do it right.
Tim?
And I agree with Ron, but I also say I don't think we will know if it's going to hurt the game until next year. If we have a lot of people drop off and maybe our 9s and 10s didn't play at all because certain cities aren't allowing it. We've opened up here in Ohio. The travel ball has opened up. So most of our kids are back playing. But at the same time, I've always said more is not always better. And Ron hit the nail on the head there. Overplaying is just as bad as not playing enough. Because we got kids coming back with injuries and now they're out for 3 or 4 or 5 months. And if they just go to a family doctor, they just say, rest it. And all of a sudden you're in the middle of the winter and you start throwing just a little bit and it still hurts. Now you got to get an operation or get surgery or do something major with a specialist. So I'm not big on a 100-game schedule, 85, 75-game schedule. I think 25, 35 for my kids was plenty, but also allow them to be a kid. It lets them play 2 or 3 sports if they want to. It lets them to go to the swimming pool. I know you've seen it at age 6, 7. Hey, we got a game night, guys. Don't go to the pool. Don't get all tired. You know what? You miss your whole summer. You're only a little guy once or a little girl once. And you know what? Enjoy what you can as you come through. But Elliot Hopkins, who's the head of the National High School Federation for baseball, he's the director for the baseball. He says he comes to our clinic and speaks every year. And he says that baseball is in the best shape it's ever been. Numbers-wise, it's in the best shape it's ever been. So we'll see down the road if that changes. But I think baseball is still a sport that kids love to play and moms and dads love their kids to play it. I think, like Ron said, he felt bad for the seniors, which we all do. But you know who I really feel bad for, too, is the senior parents. That's their last hurrah to be together as parents, to watch their kid, to take pictures, and to see a chance to do something good on the field. And if you're only a baseball player in high school and you missed the entire season, which we did, we were going on spring break on Monday. We got school canceled on Friday. And so now we've been out, of course, through the rest of the year and for the summer. But if we don't have football in the fall here, and like most states in fall sports, is it going to hurt? I think we'll see down the road.
You know, it's interesting, Tim, what you were talking about. Also, Ron mentioned that you guys mentioned different sports. You know, you're talking about high school players and you're encouraging to do different things. You know, like even during the pandemic, I mean, they can go out in their backyard, play some basketball on their own, or, you know, just work the different skills. And even our good friend Don Freeman on Facebook asked, and he wants your opinion. You know, now we're talking about, if you're talking about high school players, what about young kids, as you mentioned, the 6, 7, 8-year-olds or 12-year-olds, you know, that only play baseball, you know, all year round. And that's what Donnie's asking, is your opinion on specialization.
Well, I'm not in favor of it. And I tell our parents, and I get that question a lot. I'm sure Ron got it when he was coaching, that, hey, what do we do? We feel we're better. Well, at this age, you might be better. But you know what? Don't make that call till you're 17 or 18. When you go into your junior year, senior year, and you got offered a full scholarship someplace, then you know what? Then dedicate yourself to it. Maybe don't take a chance of getting hurt in another sport. But for most of us, that's a small percentage. That's a small percentage of people that's going to be in that position. So don't expect it. Just go play and see if it happens. That's my theory. But
Ronnie?
No, play multiple sports.
If you're talking like Donnie's talking about, those young kids, and let them play other sports. Enjoy yourselves. We're not all going to be baseball players. You might find a niche in wrestling. You might find your niche in bowling. You might find your niche in fishing. Yeah, might even track and field. But, it all works together. Do you know what the average age of retirement is for a baseball player?
I'm going to guess 14.
Tim?
I had no idea.
13.
Ooh, see, I'm only off one again. That must be
That's
my
right.
lucky number.
That's right. 13 years old. And why is that? A kid gets to that point and he's not he's not a specialist in that sport. God almighty. You better have another thing to do than just play baseball. And mom and dad, don't live through your kids. Let your kids live through themselves. You can guide them and teach them and encourage them, but let them learn and develop themselves with your guidance. Don't sit there and be a helicopter parent all the time saying, you got to do this, you got to do that. No, you don't. Be a kid. Be a kid. Now, all year round, no, they should be other sports. But if a kid is going to be nothing but a vegetable in the off season, go out and swing a bat. You don't have to join a club team. Swing a bat. Get some kids together. I don't know about you guys, but I'm an old man. I'm 73 years old. Hell, we used to get my neighborhood together, go over to the city park, and play over the line. Or we'd play softball games against kids on the other blocks. Or we'd have basketball games with kids on the other blocks. So enjoy life. Because you get my age, boy, it gets tough.
Well said. Love it.
You know
Tim,
what?
listen. Go ahead, Tim.
I think one thing, how important it is for those youth coaches to make the game fun, because it can be very slow. But I always had one rule for our freshman coaches and our JV coaches. I said, guys, you teach what you want to teach. I mean, stay within what we're trying to teach. But I said, you teach as much as you feel comfortable with, but you got one job to do, and that's don't run kids off. And I hear over the years that my son played till he was 12, and then the coach just ran him off. He hated it, and then he hated the game. And it's like, I feel so bad when somebody can use that excuse or whatever it might be that, yeah, he got ran off because he had a bad coach. And that's in every sport. That's in basketball and football too. That, you know what, coaches, just don't run kids off. Make it fun. No matter what their ability, they're still kids. They want to have fun. They want to play. And you got to find a way to make it fun for them. And, you can't have boring, slow practices and complain and yell. You know what? Laugh, giggle, and do whatever you need to do. But just don't run kids off. And I think that's our number one goal from 10th grade all the way down to the beginning of baseball.
Yeah, and Tim and Ron, the reason we've been doing this series, we call it the long-term athletic development or long-term baseball development, simply on what we're talking about. And that is, educating coaches at the younger level is very important. When kids start playing the game, there's certain windows of trainability where, if you're just playing T-ball only and you're not getting any athletic movement or anything, catching a ball or just tossing it up in the air or just running, if you're not getting all these things, long-term, that in science and studies have shown this, exactly what Ron's talking about. They quit at 13 years old. So that's why we continue to harp on this. And one of the areas that I think is important to talk about, and you guys have to deal with it as a high school national association, also as a high school coach, the game has changed. You're seeing Major League Baseball now. Baseball's on, there's going to be different rules. So rules are changing. Even high school baseball rules have changed. But the other thing that's changed is that other levels of baseball have started. Now you see travel ball. And there has been, whether people want to say it or not, there's been a conflict between high school and travel baseball. I know we've had a tremendous conflict here in Illinois. And if there's no communication, it gets worse. So I know you're concerned with this. So if you don't mind, Tim, you want to get the ball rolling, address the issue, because I'm not here to say one's good or bad. Look, to me, there's good and bad at all levels. Some guys maybe are not as strong. Some guys are weaker, whatever it may be. But there is the issue of kids, even in here in Illinois, saying, well, I'm maybe not going to play high school baseball. I'm going to play travel ball because I get exposure and all the other reasons. Let's talk about that.
Well, I try to tell our kids, you know what, you cannot hide talent anymore. If you're good, no matter where you're at, what town you're in, somebody's going to know something about you that's going to spread the word to somebody else. So you can't hide talent. And on the other hand, you can't buy talent. If I'm not very good, I can be on the best travel team. It doesn't mean anything more than I'm shelling out some money and we're going to win some games in spite of how bad I am. So I just try to be realistic about it. I do like travel ball, but at the same time, I miss the days of I used to coach our kids in the summer. So I got a chance to really be around them and watch the things that they were improving on firsthand, and try to make it where, hey, we're here for you. We're not here to use you or to use myself to get glory about what we've done. I see too many travel teams sometimes using, here's how many college players we had leave our team last year. We're the best. We're the best. Hey, you know what? If you're a great recruiter, you're going to have that. And back in the day, we had 3 or 4 travel teams that were very good, but they were true travel teams with the star players. And now rec ball is disappearing because everybody thinks we need to be on a travel team to get exposure. And so the travel teams are getting watered down. And, you know, it doesn't matter. Pros down to 8-year-olds, you're going to see bad baseball at times. It just depends on the day. Some days, just without talent, you're going to have more bad days than others. But I just try to tell our guys, we want you playing games, but mom and dad, know your son. Does he love the game so much he wants to play 75 games? Or is that throwing him in the deep water too soon? And he's going to come out and say, you know what, I'm tired of baseball. We got 30 games in and we've got 35 more to go, and I don't want to play anymore. Well, that's bad for the team he's leaving or he doesn't want to play for. And it's bad for the parents putting him in that spot, because now that's part of the 13-year-old that probably says, I don't want to play anymore after this year. So I think you have to know your child. Some kids love it. Other kids don't buy into that more is better, because sometimes it's not.
Good points, Ronnie.
Well, you have to define what travel ball is. Is travel ball just play on the weekends? Anybody can play on the weekends. The difference between high school ball and travel ball is that in between, what are you doing? You're practicing. You're working on skills. If you're in a travel program that just takes your dollars, make sure you get a nice looking uniform, and that you're playing on weekends with mom and dad paying the price, except to wear the name across their chest called spring training team or something, what's it worth? But if you're going to teach, and that's what they're lacking in travel ball. They don't teach, but if they teach, they charge you for the teaching lessons. You know, doesn't that come into the so-called joining that club team? That's the problem I have. And then they overuse them. You know, we went to a pitch count in high school baseball and across the country and youth baseball. That's because the guys are pitching Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with no limitations. And then we get them back on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and their arms are dead. You know, don't overuse the kid.
And that was going to be, Tim, what my question also on addressing that issue. I know, you know, kids are playing even, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, let's say, for the high schools, because some states have high school summer baseball, and even maybe Thursday, but then they got to leave either Thursday or Friday to go with their travel team. And then, like Ron said, they might pitch for the high school, and then now they got to pitch on the weekend. They're pitching 2-3 games possibly. Has there been communication or has been recommendations? I know every coach is individual within their own high school, but the National Association, have you guys tried to communicate with the travel teams, or is it just so broken up that there's so many different people out there?
There are a lot of people, and you know what, it sounds like I don't want to be a coach that badmouths the travel ball, because it's got a lot of good stuff to it, and some programs are a lot better. If I'm a parent, I hope I do my research. I get into the program where the coach actually treats my kids fair, puts them ahead of everything else, and also tries to teach them and coach them during the game. I think from what we've done, you know what, there's a great thing about having parents coach in the younger group, in the younger ages, where they know baseball or not, because you have to have them or you wouldn't have a team. So we need adults to coach. And we're getting some of that in travel ball now, because we don't have the rec, and we don't really, in Ohio, we don't really have summer ball anymore with summer teams. There's nobody to play, because everybody's going to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday games, and they're even going into Monday for the tournament finals. So what we've kind of gone down to in Central Ohio is you work with your kids a couple hours a day, and then you send them home. So it's a practice situation. You might have inter squad on some days with your guys. That way, the guys that are playing travel, which is most of your better players, you're fresh going in the weekend, and we're not overusing you during the week. We're getting our fundamentally ground balls, pop-ups, work on some pitches, flat ground on your changeup that you need to work on for next year. So I think that's where, as a coach, you can't just bite the bullet and say, do it my way, the highway. You got to be here, else you're done. And I know that still exists, but we got away from that. I'd encourage that to stop in all the high school levels, where you don't make a kid make a choice. And, you know, we have it with our own building within different coaches. We've been pretty lucky where I'm at because we all work together pretty well. But when you tell your baseball players, hey, if you go to basketball today and don't come to baseball, then I'm going to cut you next year. Well, you're putting that kid that wants to play two sports in a bad situation.
Yeah, and we're encouraging kids to play two sports at times.
Exactly, and find time to do it.
Yeah.
What he's saying is, if you're around the bigger city, like I'm here in Columbus, there's tons of travel teams. But if I go 45 minutes away, they got to come to Columbus to play, or they go to the next big city. If they live up in the northern part of the state, there's plenty of places in Cleveland. But if you're caught in the middle, I mean, you're driving an hour and a half each way just to go to a practice or a game or meet up with your team because you want to get on a travel team, because they're still, the country schools for the most part are still staying with organized summer baseball. The bigger cities have lost out to, and we have 5 facilities right now in Columbus, just like I'm sure in Phoenix and Scottsdale, there's probably 25 or 35 facilities that you could join. And that is an indoor batting cages. And that's also teams that we're playing. They have no fields. So they have to go someplace to play. That's why they're only playing on weekends. The thing I don't like about a lot of the situation, I talked to a lot of our parents, and they're concerned about it, but they don't know what to do, is it's become a country club sport. Baseball has become a country club sport because I have to get on a travel team, and it's a minimum of $1,000 to $5,000 to play. And that doesn't count my travel, my overnight stay in hotels and stuff. But all the coaches now that we used to coach when we started, we coached for free or for very little money, $300 or $400 for the summer, where your boosters club might give you some money back. But at the same time, we coach for free, and there's very few coaches anymore at the travel teams that are doing it for free. There's some kind of stipend included in that fee. And God bless them. I mean, God bless them. They're smarter than me, but that's what's happening.
Here's one of the things bother me about the travel teams and the younger teams. And I shouldn't say Little League, but Steve, I'm sorry. The CEO of Little League, I'm sorry. But how many kids are on a team? 12 to 13. Hell, when I played, it was 18, 19 kids. You had the guys on the bench. I know they made rules that every kid has to have at least one bat, play in the field, and you have 18 kids, you can't do that. So you have 12, 13 kids. What hurt us, at least it hurt me as a high school coach, was you go to the junior high schools, how many they carried? 12, 13. Because mom and dad want their kid to play. So the kid, doesn't make it. We lost the 13th, the 14th, the 15th, the 16th, and the 17th, the 18th kid. At 6 kids, you lose. We have early developers and late developers. Who are the kids they usually keep? The early developers.
Early, sure.
Yeah. So what happens when they get to high school? What they did against younger kids at 7th grade, 8th grade, they can't do it 9, 10, 11, 12 because always lifting, always that big swing, the big hack, doesn't get it done. The curveball kills them. And what happens to the kid? What happened to the kid 13 through 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 kid when he gets to high school? He's a late developer. What happens his sophomore year? He shoots up and becomes a giant. And he's a kid that we should have in our program. We don't have. Why? They cut him. They cut him when he was younger. Every kid has to be cut.
And that's a great point, Ron, because just so you know, folks, next week we're going to have some, and Tim mentioned it also, we're going to have some travel coaches on. There's obviously, I know them, you guys know them, there's some very good travel programs out there that really do a great job. But again, like Ron, my major concern is those kids that were 11 and 12, that haven't developed yet, well, they quit the sport because they didn't have a place to play because it's all about the travel ball. Now, travel balls tried to have certain levels, which may have helped a little bit because they're playing at a lower level. But again, that's a concern of mine when it comes to the future development. We're trying to keep kids in the game, Tim. And I think, I think it's important to communicate, I would think, between the high school coach and the travel coaches. If you have a good relationship, you can discuss these things, and for the benefit of the player and the parent, work it out so that way kids have a better opportunity.
I've just found it's not that
easy.
It's not that easy. We started in Ohio about 10 years ago. We brought a youth program in where we could bring people, anybody come listen to our speakers for a reduced rate. Come in and join us. The first year we had 3. The second year we had 5. So we said, we're going to stop that. ABCA right now is working on that, but they're not getting a whole lot. I don't think they're getting a whole lot of response out of it. But some of these dads, some of the younger coaches, they're only coaching until their son's out of it, until they can get their kid to high school. Then they say, you know what? I've done this long enough. I don't want to be the coach anymore. I want you to take it over. And you know what? And they were servants. They did their job. They did a good fatherly thing or motherly thing to help out. That's why I say, so I give all coaches full credit. I would still say, guys, just your job's not to run people off. It's not to evaluate and send to the next level. This kid's good. This kid's not good. But at the same time, if I know that I'm going to be coaching 2 years, do I really want to get involved in an association? Do I really want to go to a lot of meetings? Do I want to do these things for what? Just for friendships that I'll never see again. And I'm not, I'm not in that field, so I'm not going to stay with it. So like I said, I admire that situation, but I understand it. And bottom line, I just tell our kids, guys, I want you playing. Play as many games you want. Play as few as you want, but just play. Just play. That's how you're going to get better. And in our program, we had 30 players on our team this year on our varsity, and we've had 30 for the last 10, 12 years. But we had a role for each one. Some were you can stay, but you're a bullpen catcher. That's it. And if they can handle that, and that's what some want to do, I admire them for it, and we needed them. So, yeah, 12, 13 players. You can't play more than 10 games in the summer with 12, 13 players. You start playing 30 and 40. 18 wasn't enough when we played Legion baseball. 18 wasn't enough to get us through the year, especially when people have other things to do in the summer and have to take a day or 2 off once in a while, which is fine. But it is really hard. And even in my community, when we'd set up clinics, there'd be poor showings because the other coaches just didn't have time, didn't really want to take the time. I don't know, but I was involved in our younger association for a lot of years. The only thing I didn't do was they wanted me to be on the board to help pick their 12-man rosters. I said, guys, I can't do that. Being the head coach, I can't be the one that's labeled, I cut your kid at age 10, travel team. And now he's going to play for me down the road. He's going to say, no, I'm not. The guy cut me once. I'm not going to do it. So I refused to be on that part of the committees. That was even watching them have tryouts.
Ronnie, we've also have coaches, at the young levels that listen to the show, watch on YouTube, go to baseballoutsidethebox.com, the audio part. And one of the areas, that it's all about education. And we're trying to get the word out to help young people, especially our volunteers. I'm with you guys. Our volunteers, God bless them. If we don't have them, we don't have baseball at the younger levels. They do, they do the best they can. And sometimes we don't support as much as we should. And I say that with a lot of national organizations are finally now starting to support things with free information, not always trying to charge the volunteer, but free information. So I do agree that we need them, and they're great people. They're well-intended. But there are some things, and I'll give you an example, Ronnie, and you could bring it up, anything else. If you're talking to them and you want to give them advice, I'm seeing kids at 10 years old win a tournament or even come in second and get a ring. I'm seeing them with hats with their names on there. These are, to me, these are detrimental to the development of long-term developing. we're not teaching them to earn anything. Like and I don't mean to talk a lot, but I spent a lot of time in Japan. In Japan, you got to earn things. You don't just get a uniform. You don't get a number. You don't get to be on varsity just because you're a varsity player. You got to earn that spot. Now, I'm not saying we got to be like the Japanese, but we're getting away from that. If we're talking about long-term development, we're going to lose players. Now, I know people have told me, USA Baseball's told me the same thing. They say, our numbers are increasing. Major League Baseball's doing a great job. I understand it. USA Baseball's doing a great job of getting the word out about playing the game. But the numbers I'm seeing is that they're seeing a lot of numbers at the young levels increase, but I'm seeing a lot of numbers at that 13-year-old age that you mentioned decrease. That's because they get involved and long-term they don't stay in. I know I talked a lot, but Ron, I want you to talk about that.
No, you hit it right on the nose, Pete. It's one thing that chaps my hiney, and that was Pop Warner football, club soccer, club swimming, club baseball. A kid goes to a tournament and gets a ring for a tournament. A kid goes 1-9 in Pop Warner and gets a 4-foot trophy for participation. You don't need to be rewarded. Make them, like you said, earn the honor, not given awards just for being a participant. I don't know about your program, Tim, but I know that as a freshman coach, I've been a freshman coach now for 7 years. And you have your banquet, and what do you give your freshman kids? A certificate. And they look at you like, what in the hell is this?
Well, yeah, they got a ring at 12.
My fingers are loaded with rings, 50-cent rings for winning this tournament and that tournament. Holy crap. You know, earn the thing. You don't have to have awards. You know, I've been very fortunate. I've won a few awards, but do I talk about them? No. Do I have to show you what they are? No. I thought I earned them, but I don't earn them by myself. I earn them because the people I'm with and the people who played for me, they're the ones who earn it. So there's too many gratifications. We live in what I call a reset world. Okay. Now, what is a reset world? You get on a game in video and you start doing these mazes and everything else on the computer. What happens if you can't go any further? You're blocked and you're going to die. What do you hit?
Reset.
Reset. What happens? Oh, back to the beginning. They don't know how to fail. They don't know how to get up from that failure and correct what you have to learn to be successful or be the best person you can be. So we're giving too many awards to too many kids too early.
And don't get me wrong, Tim. You know what? I think you can give things to young kids. I mean, we used to get, and I'm not saying we have to go back to the past. Give stickers or but there's certain things you can give rewards. For when you're doing things well and you're hustling, whatever it may be. But when we're starting, if you're giving rings out, by the time they get to high school, they're going to want a car, but maybe a contract.
Want a mansion.
And here's the other part, Tim. I want to address this area. You can obviously finish on this. But they're also being put in positions to succeed a lot. What I mean by that, if I'm playing, I have travel teams here where 8 years old, 9 years old, 10, 12, 11, all the way to 13 or 12, they're playing on the same team all the time. Now, to me, that's a position where you're not going to fail as much because your team's getting much better. Somebody else might say, well, but that, you're developing team and culture and this and that. Okay, but you don't get any other coaching. You don't understand what it means to another coach saying something and how to deal with it. You're not playing with different players. You're always playing with the same ones. There's not a whole lot of learning going on when it comes to real life because you're stuck in that bubble with that same team. So maybe address that a little bit along with what we talked about.
Well, I see that around here too, but there's certain things I like. And as long as the coach or the people who are running the organization and the kids are having fun, there's nothing wrong with having a group of kids that love each other and want to be with each other year in and year out. I mean, as long as they're having fun, they're gaining something. They're still playing and they want to be at the ballpark. They want to practice. They want to get together, whether it's at the swimming pool in somebody's backyard or wherever it might be. But we are seeing where I'm not playing. so I'm going to jump to another team. I'm not playing, and it's the coach's fault because my son he's better than some of half the kids on the team. So they're jumping ship. But I mean, you got to do what you got to do, but at the same time, guys, you got to investigate. You got to do more than just look at the history from last year. But yeah, I think you're right where some stay together too long. But you know what? If that coach was good, then I want to stay with him. If not, I go to another team. And to be honest, there's so many options anymore for the most part. But you've got to make a decision by midsummer because people are starting to do tryouts in the fall for next year. Instead of having tryouts for baseball in the spring, it's all preset because now we're doing fundraisers and stuff to raise money for trip to Cooperstown. We're going here, we're going there, we're going down to Carolina and the Ripken League and for a tournament. I mean, I always said, guys, I can drive 5 miles across town and get my butt beat. I don't need to be spending $2,000 to take my kid to 14 different states. So it is what it is. I think as a parent, you just hope you're getting good advice and not listen to the other moms and dads that never had a kid go through. I try to tell our parents, hey, talk to the seniors. You freshman parents, talk to the senior parents, and you'll know more about the program and what to expect. Don't just listen to me. You may not believe me, but they've been through it. And some of them had more than 1 or 2 children, and some played more than others. So to really get the inside scoop, talk to the people that's already had kids go through and what they wouldn't do. I do hear this a lot, that if I did this over as a parent, I wouldn't have started my son so early with so many games.
Yeah.
We missed out on a lot of stuff when he was growing up. And did it really help him? Because we're still only getting 1 or 2 a year. Since travel ball started and everything switched, we're not getting more college players. I mean, we got more kids playing travel ball, but the results show to me that hopefully had fun, because you're still not a college player once you graduate. Enjoy every level you're at and have the best opportunity. And that's the best advice I can give anybody as a parent or a coach. Coach, don't run them off. Parents, have fun. Enjoy it. Don't put too much pressure on them. Ron said it. Let the kids play and support them the best you can as a parent, like we all try to do. And don't rehash. Don't try to think they're major leaguers until they get to that level and somebody actually calls them.
It's not our responsibility to develop our kids to be big league ball players, because there are very few that are going to make it. It's not our responsibility to make them college players, because only a few of them are going to go to a college, especially the big colleges. Yeah, they can go anywhere in the country where it's small. It's not our responsibility to get them a scholarship. It's our responsibility to do 2 things. 1, make them the best player they could be. Teach them the best fundamentals they could have. 2, make them the best student in the high school, the classes they can be. And 3, be the best teammate they can be. If we can just do those 3 things, if they're good enough, they're going to move up. They're going to be seen. Because you know as well as I do, they don't miss too many athletes anymore with their scouting systems. But there are always some sleepers. And that's what I think what happened this summer or this spring. Some of the sleepers are going to get away just because the games are all called off.
Yeah, like you mentioned, the late bloomers. Something else I wanted to ask you about, the communication between high school and college baseball, because that's so important too. I've had college coaches on the show, other high school coaches, as you know, Hall of Fame coaches like yourselves. One of the issues that you hear a lot about nowadays is that college coaches don't communicate enough with the high school coach when they're recruiting a player. Is that something you're seeing? And maybe some advice out there for high school coaches how to deal with college coaches and vice versa?
I've seen it around here where, luckily for me, I was an assistant at Indiana University before I came to Dublin 33 years ago. So I was there for 2 years under Bob Morgan. And I got to know what the college level was like. And I got to meet a lot of those college coaches at clinics and travel and the games we played and different things. But so I always told people, I stayed in that fraternity, also being involved in the National High School Baseball and being involved in the ABCA. I got a chance to rub elbows and set meetings with some of the top coaches in the United States. So that helped me, and it helped my kids because they knew me personally, so they could trust what I was saying about a player. And they'd call me about players in my area. Do you know anything about this kid? We got this form. Can you help me out? Is he from a good program? Is the coach good? Is he sound? And is the player sound? So I would do a lot of that with kids that didn't even play for me. But what I did bring up at one of our meetings, an ABCA meeting, was, you know what? We've kind of skipped the high school coach in a lot of colleges, because they will post on their programs the player, what high school they went to, and what summer team they played on, what travel ball team. Not mention the high school coach. Now, there's still a lot that do that, but I said that's a conflict of interest for the high school coaches to say, you know what, the kid can't.
Oh, we lost Tim.
Yeah.
Ronnie, you go ahead and continue it. Tim will be back. We lost. That's a new one for us. Never lost a guest before.
Okay.
Yeah, but go ahead. Continue for Tim.
Well, I was so enthused with what he was saying.
Yeah, I was into it too.
Well, yeah. But, along Tim's lines, communication sometimes with colleges, they only come see you when you have somebody they want to recruit. But I have found over the years that I've been coaching, if I get a call from a coach and a letter from a coach asking for my recommendation, you better not lie to them. You better not exaggerate to them. You better not oversell a kid. And I tell coaches, if you want to talk to me, I'm going to tell you the truth about the kid. And I tell the kids, if somebody calls me, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to tell them exactly what I think about you. What do you like in the classroom? What do you like outside the classroom? Now we'll talk about what you're like on the baseball field, in practice and in games. Then we'll start talking about your talent, But some guys will say, hey, Pete Caliendo, he's the greatest shortstop that I've ever had in my life. Next year. Oh, Tim Saunders, he's the greatest shortstop I've ever had in my life. And the coaches start saying, but wait a minute, I thought you said. And I had a coach one time ask me a recommendation about a second baseman. This was many, many years ago. And he said to me, he says, how good is this kid? I said, Coach, this kid can hit. He can downright smash. Defensively, doesn't throw very well. Has to be a second baseman. He's got a funky throw. But I'll tell you what, he's brilliant. He's like number 3 in his class. And it won't be any of a problem, but he'll drive you nuts because you ask you so many questions. All right, he ends up going to that school. They put him down to the Air Force Academy, Dixie College, which is the feeder for BYU.
Mm-hmm.
And he just hit the snot out of the ball. And then he ended up going to BYU, and he came back and says, Ron, he says, I got to tell you something. The kid can hit. I said, yeah. But he can't throw. I said, what did I tell you? I told you he couldn't throw. And he says, he'll drive you nuts because he's asking you every question like, why are you doing this? I said, all you have to do is tell him the answer, and he will figure it out. So don't lie to people. Don't ever exaggerate. Don't oversell. Be honest with college coaches.
What else have you seen when it comes to, guys recruiting? Here's one thing I hear, and I just want to get your opinion on it because I hear a lot of it from high school coaches, and that is sometimes the college coach will skip over the high school coach. We're trying to get Tim on here.
There you go.
And maybe skip over the high school coach and go to other coaches that the kid plays for, but yet the high school coach knows them for 4 years. Why would you not communicate directly with the high school coach?
I have no idea why they do that. Maybe because it's their friend or whatever. I mean,
if anything, let's talk to all these guys and get as much information as possible. I would think it would be the smartest thing.
Well, here's an example for myself. I was not a bad ball player in high school. Okay. Hi, Tim.
Hey, I'm back.
What'd you do? Hit the wrong button?
No, my power went out.
Folks, just so you know, Caliendo, it has attention to detail. Normally with our guests, I go through a checklist of some things. And one of the checklists is make sure you plug in your power. And guess what? I did not do that because I thought these guys were veterans.
I thought I had it plugged in all night last night.
Good job.
That's
But
all
anyway,
right.
the
Go ahead,
story-
Ronnie.
Back to the story. When I was in high school, I was a decent ball player, okay? Had all kinds of awards. But I also had a battery mate who could just throw the snot out of the ball. So everybody is trying to get the kid on the rubber, on the hill. He's recruited. Well, make a long story short, he's not bright enough to go to college. Even to go to ASU. Okay? Not bright enough to go there. So he ends up going to a junior college. And I was all set to go to a junior college, and I get a call. And it just so happened when he saw the guy pitch, he saw me catch. And he thought, okay, I already have a catcher. So 2 weeks before school started at ASU, his catcher signs. He comes in as a freshman. So I get a call because he remembered me and was told by other people in the area about me, and I ended up going to ASU. And I told God love Bobby Winkles. I told Bobby, I said, I was never your first choice, but I think I did a pretty good job for you.
Yeah, obviously, player of the World Series, player of the series, right? In '67 or '66, I believe.
67, they had to give it to somebody, so.
Yeah, there's a few big league guys in that group too that got the award.
So it's kind of weird, you know, the goal to see, and it's the moral of the story is this. If somebody's comes to your facility, tell your players, just be yourself and play as hard as you can in practice as you do in a game. Because if you're good enough, they're going to see you. And if you make an impression, they might come back to you and get you.
Tim, go ahead and finish it off because you got cut off. I know. Finish it off, about the high school coach and the college coach relationship.
But anyway, I did bring it up, and they said, you know what, you're probably right. We're skipping the high school coach. Now, I still got calls on my guys, but I'm hearing a lot of high school coaches say they don't get calls anymore because they sign these kids in the summer, and it's like, this kid won't start for us, and he's going to, he's going to a Division I school, or he's going to a Division II or III school, and he's picked his choice. But so it's happening, but I think, it is what it is. The other thing I would say is that I asked one of our coaches at a roundtable meeting we had in the ABCA about, guys, you say you want 2 and 3 sport athletes, but really you don't, because you're telling us that if you don't come to this showcase, I won't be able to see you. If you don't come to our camp, I won't be able to see you. So the old-fashioned way of just, we're going by the rankings in the college level. We're getting a lot of our names from those rankings that you see, and we're bypassing, and we'll just go straight to those guys and see if they're what we're looking for. So it has changed some. I think you have to do your best. I would also tell high school coaches, guys, don't tell me that your kid can't play for the D3 school that's 25 minutes away. I mean, that he's too good for that. I said, have you ever watched them play? We got kids on the teams, and I try to go watch them every year, but I also try to go because I know they had coaches. And if I got a Saturday or Sunday off, I'll go up and watch 3 or 4 innings and within a 45-minute drive just to see them, let them know I'm there, and I support that level. But I said, you got to go out and see these teams at these different levels. Otherwise, don't make that comment to your players, oh, you're better than that. Because it's not the case. There's some good small college teams out there that your kid might not play at because he might not be that good. So it has to work both ways. I mean, you've got to be cordial to the college guys and stay in touch with them. Some guys are better than others getting back with you, but that's just life. So I think it's got to be a two-way street.
And that brings up a great point. I was just thinking about my mentor, rest in peace, Dick Birmingham. You guys both knew him. Dick used to take his high school team all the time to different divisions, your Division I or II or III, to watch them play right behind home plate as best they can, to understand, can I play there? I thought that was a great thing that he left behind. That's some great advice. This leads perfectly into what we want to talk about when it comes to showcases, because as a former USA Baseball, I used to be the regional director of the NTIS program here in Illinois, which had about 6 states. I like showcases for certain reasons, even for young kids. What I mean by that is this. A 12-year-old might go to one showcase just to get the experience, because it's different, right? You're with a bunch of other players. You got to take ground balls. There's pressure. Maybe you do one of those. That's okay. I think that we're doing way too many of them. We're spending way too much money, but you don't need to go to 6 or 7. Ronnie mentioned it perfectly. He said, nowadays you're going to be seen. But here's the other aspect I want you guys to address, especially on showcases. Sometimes we get the showcase player that is used to so many showcases that you want that reset button, reset. They're not getting the real experience. But the other part of it is also a college coach goes to see a bunch of showcases. I understand why they do it, right? Because of the economics. You go to one location. The problem is I also know college coaches that have made mistakes because they thought the player was pretty good, but then he ends up signing them and then he goes and plays. Well, he's not as good as he thought he was when it came to the mental game of it, the actual person themselves. They didn't know the human being that well. Talk about that, Ronnie. Start it off, address it any way you like.
I've had parents approach me and ask me, should my son or sons go to a showcase? And I'd always ask, why? Because he has to be seen. Well, he's going to be seen. But if you tell me he wants to go there to see how he compares with other people from other parts of the country or other parts of the state and see what a showcase like, that's fine. Go to one, but make sure you go to a good one. Because what's going to happen in a showcase, you're going to get so many cuts at the plate, maybe 3 rounds of 7, maybe 4 rounds of 6, and you're done. And then you're going to get 2 games in, maybe 3 games in. Where if you play high school ball, you're going to play, and if you're a starter, you're going to play all the time and get more cuts in practice. Sometimes you just get bad pitches during BP. I had this one mom come to me, she says, well, should my son go? I said, let me tell you a little story, and I'm not going to mention who this young man is. He was a play for show ball player. Everybody that had a showcase flew him in to be in the showcase. Pete, I got this young man by the name of Tim Saunders. He's a great one, okay? See if you can get Ronnie. Okay, Ronnie, you got to come to showcase because, hey, Tim Saunders is going to be there. And if he's there, they're going to have 125 scouts and 200 college coaches. And they're going to see you. Okay. Wow, that's great. So I pay my $2,000-3,000. I pay my traveling expenses. I get there. I get my cuts in. He gets in there. Everybody's watching. Or I don't get my cuts in because I'm in another group. As soon as he finishes hitting, what happens?
They leave.
They all leave. They paid, this showcase flew him in, paid his expenses. My expenses were paid for myself and my parents. They don't care what I'm like. They want to come see him. So find out who's coming to that showcase. If it's a big name, I won't go because they're not there to watch me. They're coming to watch him. So an experience itself is good. I mean, I've coached a couple of showcases. I did one on television. I did one back east, but they're great for the guys who are stars.
Timmy?
Ron, you're exactly right. And that's a good point. We'd have showcase in our field, and I would, on our field, we got 50 box seats, air conditioned on the second floor of our press box. And so we sat in the theater seats up in the top. I'd open up for the scouts and the coaches so they can watch the air conditioner while the kids are on the field. And they would watch out the front, and I'm sitting beside guys, and And basically they see a kid take some swings, they cross his name off the list. They see a kid throw from shortstop, they cross his name off the list. They see the catcher throw to second base, they time him, they cross him off the list. So I was always open to say, parents, I think you should do it one time just to know what they're looking for. But after that, if you think you got to keep going, it's easy to get crossed off and you never get back on. I'd rather have you, because I think you're a pretty good player, I'd rather have you sneak in the back door, have a good senior year, and we can get you in a Division II or Division III school. Unfortunately, the Division I's are signing 2 years in advance now. So if you don't get on their list, but like Ron said earlier, that's a very small percentage, 1 or 2%. So in the whole Central Ohio, and we have 105 schools, you've got about 20 to 25 kids total out of 125 programs that are going to Division I. So they know in advance who they are. So don't let them cross your name off the list too soon. Sneak in the back door. Just go play the game. I had a good senior year. I hit 395. I had 3 home runs. I had 4 triples, 12 stolen bases. And all of a sudden now they call the high school coach up and they like, hey, yeah, we'd love to have that kid. So that's why I call sneaking in the back door. Don't overexpose yourself too soon, because the exposure you're giving might be bad exposure.
Great points. And I want to just mention also my other concern I had. I'm hoping that there's some dialogue between Major League Baseball and NCAA when it comes to baseball, because there's a lot of winter showcases. And in the winter showcases, a lot of Northern League teams, Eastern teams, these kids aren't ready to go to these showcases. But
Exactly.
The problem is, I think, there's a problem here because Major League scouts and NCAA coaches might go to them. Well, once they go to them, the player's going. So I'm hoping that there's some dialogue saying maybe there's certain times of the year where you hold these showcases so players are prepared for them, because I know a lot of our kids here in the winter may not be ready. They think they are because they threw indoors, but when you get there, you're throwing at high capacity. Tim, what do you think?
Well, I've had kids that go to a place, an indoor showcase, because it's too cold to be outside, and especially pitchers. So you know what? You haven't thrown in 3 months. Are you really ready to go? And they're just told me I'm going to throw like 80%. They just want to check. I said, no, they're not looking at 80%. They want to see what you got. And are they watching your leg kick and your form? Not really. They're watching you throw. They want to see you snap off your curveball. They want to see your changeup, whatever other slider you might have. And we've had a couple lost for the year because they got hurt at a showcase, the winter showcase, and they thought they were ready, but they weren't. I'm just not talking about my own kids, because I always discouraged it. But I get it too. We can get a bunch of people in the same spot, and you know what? We can make money for our assistants or volunteer. We can charge these people to come into this showcase or our own camp, winter camp that we're having. So I'm against it, especially when I am not ready to compete physically at that level.
The thing I want to discuss, 2 more things, guys. We're coming to the end. You've been great. You've been on a long time. One, I just want to get your advice. The National High School pitch count system started, I can't remember, 3 years ago. I want to get your advice on how it's gone and maybe some changes you're looking at, or maybe some recommendations to make it better, or any issues, anything interesting there.
In Ohio, it has not changed. I mean, we're probably one of the most liberal. We've got 125 pitches in a day. But then you got to set out 5 days, or you can go tier it down and you can set out 3 days, 2 days, 1 day, depending on if you pitch 28 pitches today, you're allowed to pitch tomorrow. So it's worked pretty well. And what I've also seen is when we have our tournaments at our field, the PBRs and the perfect games, they're using the same ruling. So, and which is what we hoped would happen, that Ron talked about getting overused in the summer. That has happened a lot, and it still could, even with the pitch count today. But we're seeing it's trickling down. And you know what? The good thing, the parents know the high school rule. So now some of the parents are sticking up for their kid at a summer game and saying, Coach, no, he can't do that. Here's what the rule says, and he's already pitched. He's got to set out another day or 2. Then you got other parents that get him up there, win this game at all costs. Let's put him up there and let him play. So I think we're pretty well set. Our coaches are pretty happy with it. Most states are less than that, but we do have a 5-day, 4-day, 3-day set out period, which most coaches that I knew that I ran around with, the good coaches, it didn't affect them. it only was going to affect the small schools that only had 13 kids come out, and only 2 were pitchers. The other guys were making pitchers to get through our season. And so now it's like, you know what, we're forced to throw other bodies in there that really aren't pitchers, but just because of the school we're at and the size of the program and so forth.
And Ron, that matter of fact, I wanted to mention that because earlier on when Ron talked about the reduction in rosters, at the younger levels, well, that means guys have to have more pitchers. They got more kids have to pitch. So has this helped, Ron, in some ways with the high schools, maybe getting more pitchers involved?
I think it's developed more kids to pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Or I should say to throw.
Right.
Okay. To throw.
Well, you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah. Started to pitch. Way back in the early years of USA Baseball, we were in Colorado Springs, Colorado. If you remember that, Timmy.
Oh, yeah, 95.
And all I could hear from scouts were, we don't want our big guys coming to this USA Baseball stuff because you burn them out, you overthrow them. So we sat down as a staff and came up with a pitch count. Pitch count for the tryouts, and we did pitch count for when they got in the tournament play. We took them on to the World Championships to protect those kids' arms, to show the scouts we weren't burning them out. And it worked out pretty damn good. All right? And it caught on. Now, 3 years ago, they came up with a pitch count for high school baseball. I think it's still a great idea. And I think it's saving some arms. And people are really, really, should say, focus into pitch counts and make sure that's done correctly. But I know here in the state of Arizona, it used to be after a game, you exchange sheets. Well, hell, they don't even do that anymore. And if some guy's on the mound, he's getting to his last count, you got I'm an idiot or I'm a jerk because I keep counts on both our kids and their kids to make sure they're not overused. And they got to the end, I'm thinking, okay, this kid's got to come out. If he doesn't, it's like, hey, Mr. Umpire, why don't you go check their book and see what he has? He doesn't belong in here right now. Well, we no longer exchange pitch counts. Well, how are you supposed to do that stuff? Well, you're supposed to look on Game Changer and get the counts. Well, if you know anything about the Game Changer, the guy who's running Game Changer, if he misses a pitch, guess what? It screws up the count. I think we need that count. I think colleges maybe need to use that count too, because I'm seeing a lot of college arms go bad. And I see a lot of big leaguers, who cares, because they're all getting paid. They should be on some type of pitch count. But I like it. I'm for it. But it needs to make sure that it's enforced.
Yeah, and we've talked about it on the show. We've had some experts on the show about the arm injuries and all that. And one of the things I liked about it initially when it started, obviously it was going to help some high school coaches maybe that were a little bit, they didn't follow the rules, let's say. There's always a few. But the thing I liked about it was that you set the example for the younger levels because they really haven't set their pitch count systems till now. So I thought it was just a great example for high school coaches to show that at the younger levels, because that's where the injuries occur. I mean, we don't need doctors to tell us that. The injuries occur when you're young because now they developed older. So, but I appreciate your comments on that. Listen, let's finish it off and add anything you like. Tim, I'm interested in understanding high school baseball now, where do you want to see it go? And what are maybe some changes that can help make it better?
Well, I think our numbers, every area is different. Every state's different. Of course, the Sun Belt states, baseball is popular. The winter, maybe not so much because we play games in the spring are pretty cold. The one thing I liked about our state, and some states are doing, we have a 40-degree rule now that's put into place. If it's less than 40 degrees, even with the 40, it can be 41, but the wind chill is 38, 36. You're not allowed to play an official game. You're not allowed to play.
Ron's hurting already while you're talking about that.
Older I got, we've won and lost games in the snow with snow flurries at the college level and the high school level. And older I got, I was praising that rule because I didn't want to be outside freezing for 3 hours, 2.5 hours. Then I had to work on the field afterwards. But so we're making some progress. I think as long as our numbers continue, I think in our situation, in our schools I'm seeing around here, the numbers are going pretty good. I am seeing more and more, which I don't like. We're going with that JVA and JVB, kind of copying the soccer rule, where a sophomore can come down to freshman level and a freshman go up to sophomore level. You don't want to hurt their feelings, so we make it a JVA, JVB. I think we're in good shape here. I think we got really good umpires here. I know that's becoming an issue with the number of umpires in a lot of different areas because the fans are getting so rowdy and so boisterous towards umpires. That's one thing that I would always recommend to our parents. And sometimes I'd stop the game and say, parents, you need to stop. That's my job to argue with the umpire, not yours. So I think all coaches should support umpires. All coaches should support other coaches. And like I said, I'm in favor of the travel. I support them, but I do see some I like better than others. And I'm not going to be one to go out and badmouth them. That's up to the parents to figure it out. If they ask me for advice, I would tell them. But I'd like to see our coaches join the National High School Baseball, get involved with us, learn more about who we are by going on the website at www.baseballcoaches.org. You can find out there. You can join there. It has all information. But we've started Twitter and we've started some other things as well that we're going to continue just promoting baseball. And like I said, great coaches promote the sport. Good coaches have good teams and work with their kids. Great coaches go above and beyond and try to help everybody, not just your local friends, but the sport itself. And I think that's very, very important for all of us.
And folks, we're going to have all that information that Tim just mentioned on the show notes also. So we will get it out and we'll get it out on our social media. Ronnie, also, and before you follow up with that, I was reading, Tim said he worked on the field afterwards. I read a few articles where he was at the field at 4 a.m. I guess fixing the field and working on it. So that's dedication, right, Tim?
No, he had to beat the heat.
There you go. You should have seen Ron's face when you were talking about 32 degrees. I played at University of Illinois Chicago, here downtown Chicago. We played in 28, 29. I hated playing in cold weather, period.
I did too.
Ronnie, it's yours, man.
It's really kind of funny because baseball here in Arizona is a little bit different than it is in Illinois and Ohio and Minnesota and, the Midwest where it's colder back east. And we used to have teams come in all the time to use our facility for their spring training. And these Minnesota and Michigan and Ohio kids come in. And I mean, they come in and they come up with T-tops on, tanker. You know what I'm talking about.
Tank tops?
Tank tops, yeah. Tank top shirts on. And they're like Casper the Friendly Ghost. Because they've been inside and it's been snowy and it's wet. And our kids will go out there and go, my God, coach. And our kids are in full big jackets, hard big jackets, because we're freezing our butts off. And they go, coach, they're crazy. This kid says, this is the best day of my life. Next day they come out, they look like red lobsters because they're so pink. They get burnt. So when you talk about cold and heat, it's really kind of funny. The thing I'd like to close with, if anything, is if there are any coaches that are listening, this game is not about you. It's about kids. If you have an ego, it's about how many W's you can have. You're in the wrong sport. The wrong sport. This is about how many kids have you made men out of, in the sense of knowing how to be a better person, how to be a better father, how to be a better student, how to be a better classmate. That's what teaching is all about. When I first got in this sport, I thought I was going to change the world. I was going to be the greatest coach in America. I was going to reinvent how to play this damn game. You know what? After coaching that first year of freshman baseball, they opened my eyes. You've got to teach. You've got to teach no matter how much you know. You've got to teach. And you have to teach at a level that they're capable of playing. And if you have the ego that I am the greatest and I can do it all, hey, that's not what it's about. It's about how many of those kids can you teach? Not the first guy to the 9th guy, but the first guy to the 23rd kid. Give them all, treat them all equally. Be the best coach you can be by being the best person you can be for those kids.
Fantastic. Great way to end the show. Listen, Ronnie, first of all, let me thank you. Appreciate for being on the show today. This was outstanding.
Thank you.
All right, Tim, same thing, man. Appreciate it. And we
I
will
enjoyed it.
and we'll put everything on the show notes. Thank you. Again, Tim Saunders, Ron Davini, both of the National High School Baseball Coaches Association. We're going to put everything on the show notes. Special thanks to them for being on the show over an hour and 40 minutes. Unbelievable. Some great stuff. We'll get it all over social media. Thank you to our producer, Brian Kroc, from the Lineup Media Group. They help us put the show up, edit it. It is outstanding. Check it out, lineupmediagroup.com. And thank you especially to our listeners on Facebook in the U.S. and around the world. Also on our podcast, baseballoutsidethebox.com. Check out the audio. Special thanks to everybody for joining us today. Don't forget, subscribe on YouTube, Peter Caliendo, 80-plus shows. And Caliendo Sports International will be taking a team, if everything goes well, everybody stays healthy, to Cuba. Christmas break, 15, 14-year-old players. If you're interested, send me an email at caliendo19@gmail.com. Again, everybody, stay safe. Love you all. Thanks for being on the show. And we'll see you on tomorrow's show. See you, everybody.